Hey magicians, the holiday season is just about wrapping up, but I bet something else was wrapped up too. Presents! And I also bet you have a bunch of this stuff lying around your house. Crumpled up wrapping paper. Most people just throw it out, but we don't have to do that. This is a tutorial on how to make a cute horse blanket from just a few things. For this project, you only need a couple things. The scrap of wrapping paper, and it doesn't have to be that big, tape, scissors, a ruler, a pencil, and a horse. And it's preferable to use a horse that's standing, because horses that are running or bucking or have a leg raised, they're harder to use because they kind of get in the way and you can't really see what size the blanket has to be. So get a horse that's in a neutral position. The first thing you have to do is take your wrapping paper and mark out a rectangle on it, 3 inches by 2 3/4 of an inch, and you're going to use your ruler and your pencil for this. Since this wrapping paper has a really shiny surface on it and it's going to be hard to write, I'm going to mark my rectangle on the back. It might be a little hard to see in the video because the back is white, but I'll do my best. So here it is. I've used the ruler to make a mark 3 inches from this side of the paper and 2 3/4 inches from this side of the paper. And I've also added a little arrow pointing to one of the long sides so that I won't get it mixed up because the lengths are pretty close to each other and I don't want to get the rectangle sideways. Next up, we got to cut out our rectangle. So we're going to get our scissors and just snip along the edge. Just like that, just cutting along the lines, and it doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to be trimming it later. So here we have our rectangle, and here's the front, and the stripes are running from side to side on this one. So this doesn't look much like a blanket, but it will soon. See how this arrow is still pointing to the long side? This side is going to be the front of our blanket, so when we have it folded over our horse, the horse's head is going to be here. So the next thing we got to do is fold the blanket in half, so that the shorter sides, the 2 3/4 of an inch sides, are matching up, and the 3-inch sides are folded over on themselves. So we're going to fold it. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, and we're going to crease it along the top. So this fold here is going to be running along our horse's spine. Next, we have to make a place for the neck to go. So we're going to take our scissors again, and we're going to cut along this fold a little more than halfway along the blanket. Right about there. So that's where our fold ends, right there. And then we're going to cut out a little more in a kind of triangle shape so that the blanket slopes down in front of the horse's shoulders. And this is where we're going to need our horse to try on the blanket. So we're going to slide it over her. And it looks like we could use a little more room in front. So we're going to cut a little bit more out for the neck. Just a little bit longer, and then we're going to make this triangle a little deeper so that the flaps in front slope down a bit more. So there we go, and then these flaps are going to overlap in front a little bit. But now look, because of the way the horse's body is shaped, the blanket dips down in front. So the other thing we have to do is take our scissors and trim the bottom at an angle, trimming off a really long skinny triangle from the front to the back, so the front's a little bit narrower. So we're going to do that. And as a general rule, since horses are all different shapes and sizes, if you want to make a blanket for a special horse, use that horse, because some horses have shorter spines than others, and others have their legs in positions that'll mean you have to trim the front. This is just a generic blanket, but horses in funny positions are going to have the blanket tailored to their specific shape. So here's the blanket, and we're overlapping the tabs in front. It looks like they're a bit too long, so we can just trim them a little bit. Once we have the blanket trimmed into the right position, all we have to do is stick these 2 tabs together so that the blanket stays in the right shape. So we overlap the 2 tabs, we get a piece of tape from our dispenser, and we just tape them together, like that. So here it is, ta-da! And if the blanket's a little stiff, you might want to just rub the blanket with your thumb a little bit and kind of squash it onto the horse so that the paper creases and it looks a little more natural. That way it won't stick up as much. But other than that, I found that these blankets generally fit pretty well. The other cool thing about this tutorial is that you don't have to use just wrapping paper. You could use any material you wanted. You could use construction paper, pages from a magazine. You could even use fabric like felt if you wanted. So, now you know how to make cool blankets for all your stablemates and keep them warm in the winter.